Okay, started. Welcome to this informal meeting of the Trusts and Charities Committee. We have started webcasting for the duration of the meeting. Declaration of interest, number 2. No, thank you. Appointment of committee and chair can't really take because that's for the next meeting. Apologies. We've had Councillor Pears and Councillor Delaney.
Councillor Scott.
And
Councillor Scott.
And Councillor Scott, yes. Right, minutes of the last meeting for information. If there's any questions that you have on them? No? Thank you. Terms and reference are also for information. Okay. Now the agenda has been changed around and say it is informal discussion, but it's for information, and we will start with the Chamberlain Highbury Trust. Mike Williams.
Thank you very much, Chair. This is the sort of usual report that we would bring to Trusts and Charities Committee at this time of the year, really setting out what we'd done in the previous year and how we'd spent the grant that the Trusts and Charities Committee gave us from the Highbury Trust and what we were planning to do for the future. And that's indeed what this paper really does. The committee will be aware from previous reports that we've been successful in securing a major grant now from the National Lotteries Heritage Fund. And we've just started now the development phase. There's some significant expenditure to be undertaken, as you can see from the table there, just over £530,000. And we've started that. We've set up a project steering group, which includes council officers and trustees from the Chamberlain Highbury Trust. So we're beginning to make some good progress in that area. You can see from paragraph 4 some of the activity that we undertook in the previous financial year. Primarily, really, to get the mansion open to the public, which was one of the major criticisms from the Charity Commission some years ago, which led to the establishment of indeed the Chamberlain Highbury Trust. Last year, the committee approved initially a grant of just over 51,000. As it turned out, we ended up spending just over 42,000. The details are in paragraph 6 of my report, and the total grants that were paid then for that year were 45,000, so less than was originally approved. The statutory accounts for the Chamberlain Highbury Trust have yet to go to the auditor. That will be done very soon. We will formally approve the annual report and statutory accounts, and again, in accordance with our usual practice, we will report those back to the Trusts and Charities Committee later in the year to complete the cycle, as it were. The key issue for me today, however, and I understand the difficulties that you now have being in quorum, is that we really do need some approval to grants for 2022-23. And whilst most of our expenditure will be covered one way or another from the development phase funding that I referred to earlier, there are some items, and those are there set out in paragraph 8, which aren't covered by that development phase and which we seek funding from the Highbury Trust. So just under £27,000 is the request. And whilst we are not in desperate cash flow difficulties at the moment, to be frank, the sooner that could be formally approved and the first half year's paid, the better, really. So that's the key issue really for me today. But of course, I'm happy to deal with any questions that anyone might have.
And does anybody have a question?
Chair Nigel Oliver. I don't have a question. I'd just like to speak in support of Mike's report. We are at this stage, though, awaiting final confirmation from our finance colleagues that the monies are available. But pending that, as I say, I fully support the need to continue to support and fund the Chamberlain Highbury Trust as set out in the report. Thanks.
Thank you. Do you know when that agreement will be made?
I've already had a response from them. It's a little bit too complicated for me to understand, so I've sent it back to them just to say one line: is this money available? And as soon as that's confirmed, we'll be able to deal with the formalisation of the report under Chair's action, and then obviously confirm to Mike.
Okay. Is that accepted, Mike?
That's fine. Thank you very much. If it's okay with you, I'll leave you now. I have another session to go to.
Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you. Bye.
Mike.
Is there anything further that needs to be added for the Highbury Estate update report, or is that all covered?
That's all covered, thanks, Chair. It does appear that the report has been posted twice, item 8 and item 9, but it's just one report with Mike's report added to the back. So everything's in order in practice.
Thank you very much, Roger. Okay, then we move on to the Cropwood Estate Hunters Hill. That is you, Nigel?
Yes, in terms of the Blackwell Festival, this is a report requesting the use of a field at Cropwood Estate. A similar request was made last year, which was supported by a committee, and the festival went ahead and was conducted perfectly satisfactory. The field was returned in good condition. The Blackwell Festival Charities, represented here by Rupert, who will answer any questions regarding the report. But at this stage, I would fully recommend that this festival can take place again in September this year. Thank you.
Rupert, would you like to add? Are there any questions?
Chair, I'd like to ask a question, please, if I may.
Yes.
So, from an operational point of view, has there been any changes on site since last year? Anything that the committee needs to be aware of, either Nigel or Rupert?
The field is detached from the main areas of Cropwood. Its previous use was a sports field. It's largely been let go for that purposes. Has been used for sheep cropping in the past. Any activity that the Blackwell Festival want to take, as I say, was satisfactorily dealt with last year, and there's been no change that I'm aware for this year, and Rupert would advise me otherwise.
Chair, that's my understanding. We clearly have no access to the site. It's a secured site, so we have no access to it outside of the parameters that the committee and Nigel set for us. But as far as I'm aware, from driving past the site and looking through the fence, and from what colleagues on committee advise, that the land is as it has been for some years. If I could just add, in terms of the timing of this, and you'll see that the chat I've just put in, timing is quite critical for us in terms of having an approval. I accept the parameters around not being core, as Mike said in the previous report. We do need to submit for a premises licence to Worcestershire County Council as a regulatory authority, and we clearly need to make bookings on events and facilities. So an early approval with the committee support, if the chair is minded, would be extremely helpful to us.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I've no further questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your attendance, and we will notify you as soon as. Thank you. Move on to Cropwood Estate Hunters Hill College. Nigel, is that you?
Chair, I'm having a bit of difficulty hearing you.
Is some static from somewhere?
I didn't catch that, Chair.
Move on to, Sophia, is there anything, something on my comments? Please. Is that better?
It is, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Cropwood Estate and Hill College. Is that the same, again, the same connected report?
A separate report, Chair. If you're happy that there's no further issues for the Blackwell Festival report, we can let Rupert go, and I'll deal with the licence matters after the meeting to enable the festival charity to make their applications.
Thank you very much. That will be approved. So as I said before, I don't think you heard, we'll get that approved and get in contact with you as soon as we can. You're on mute.
You mute, Rupert.
You're on mute.
I do apologise. You'd think by now we'd have the knack of these things, wouldn't you? I was just going to ask, Chair, if I may, just for one precise piece of assistance. In terms of the premises licence, because we have to go to Worcestershire County Council as the licensing authority for approval for that, it would be helpful if any approval expressly referred to the landowners agreement for that. It's implied, I think, the way the report is written, but if the approval could expressly refer to the premises licence, that would, I think, be very helpful to us in moving forward.
Okay, that will be noted. Thank you.
Thank you for your help. Thank you.
Right. Cropwood Estate and Hill College. Who's taking that?
Emma, you're on mute.
That will be myself, Chair Emma Bourne, and my colleague David Board are here from Education in terms of that report. We have attended the committee before and we've sent reports to the Chair in respect of this matter. So just for the benefit of this meeting, and if colleagues haven't managed to read the report, fundamentally Hunters Hill College closed on the 31st of August last year, and since then Education have continued to maintain the site on behalf of the trust. However, our intention is to withdraw from the site, and we have asked the trust for approval for that to be originally we were asking for the 30th of June, which is what the original report that was sent to the committee would say. However, we have been advised by legal services recently that that has changed and it will actually be the 31st of August. So the trust asked that we ensure we had vacant possession on the site because we still had a resident that is living on the site, and they will have vacated by at the latest the 31st of August this year. That will mean that Education have continued to maintain this site with no funding for 12 months, and we ask now approval from the committee that at that point they now take that BPS on behalf of the trust take back the management of the site and relieve Education of that responsibility moving forward. That is what the report is asking for, and I'd just like some discussion around how that process starts to work, because up to now we've had no engagement from Birmingham Property Services as to what that transfer looks like, and how we can now move forward with that proposal. Is there anything else you wanted to add there, David?
No, I think that's the main thing, isn't it? Education have withdrawn from the site essentially in all practical purposes, and are working to the original agreement, which is get vacant possession so that the trust can then take control and review the future of the site. Yeah.
So we've cleared all the site of all educational items, and we have continued to secure the site for 24 hours since 31st of August last year. So, yeah. I don't know, Nigel, would it be through yourselves that we start that engagement with Birmingham Property Services once we get approval outside of the meeting? Because obviously the meeting's not current now.
Yes, through the chair. I'll be the trust representative for that. There'll need to be some inspections and confirmation from legal services colleagues that the property is vacant. I would say to everybody, but to the chair, that there is no trust funds available to provide security at the school. There's no BPS funds. So while education colleagues have been funding this fully up till now, that's normal processes for surplus properties. We'll have to review matters as they go with the chair, because obviously we'd like to continue to safeguard the site as best we can. Education have been using 24-hour security, which is very expensive and is not a sustainable way forward. Property services has been looking at other mechanisms to safeguard matters. Nothing's quite as good as 24-hour security, but we will come up with other proposals for agreement. In the meantime, obviously, with education having withdrawn educational purposes for the site, the expectation is that the site will be sold off as a whole or in parts, and matters are in motion to procure that advice for committee to address. As soon as we can bring that report forward, whether it's direct with the chair to keep matters progressing between now and the next committee, we'll do so. I think the decision is fairly simple. If we can't find a BCC use for the site, then it must go for external sale. We do have a power within the Cropwood estate to make disposals. We've used that in the past to make part disposals, and subject to legal advice, we're assuming we can continue that process to break up the estate as needs be. Each part that we sell becomes less of a security and cost issue, but we must sort of scale that in accordance with the requirements of the committee and the trust objectives to move matters forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. Are there any other questions? At this point, there's only so much we can do, as you understand. I know we've been in discussion with Nigel and those responsible, and hopefully we can come to a solution that suits everyone. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
Can I just ask, Emma, without naming names, which party is still on site? The
farmhouse.
The farmhouse, right?
Yeah, the lodge is now empty, Nigel. It's just the farmhouse that is still occupied.
Yeah, understood.
You say they're going to vacate by the 31st of August?
Yes, so they purchased the property and it was actually being built, and there's been some delays with the developers, so they can't actually move in on the 30th of June as expected. So the long date now given is at the very latest the 31st of August. So, yeah.
We want to work with them to make it as...
Yeah. So obviously it's a legal process for the person to leave, so we have to follow that process. But as I say, it should be completed within the next 2 months at the very latest. It might be earlier than that. However, we are advising that it will be the 31st of August at the latest. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
I have one more thing to raise, Chair, if that's okay. We have been approached by West Midlands and West Mercia Police with a potential of looking at using the site as a whole as part of a training facility for a period of time. And we've advised that we're kind of in this process at the moment, and it isn't education's place to particularly agree that. Can I just check, Nigel, would that be a discussion with yourself again as to whether that could be an option?
The ultimate security.
Yes, Emma, be myself. We have used, not so much the police, we have used the fire service. We've used other BCC properties to allow the fire service to do those exercises, and that's been fine from our perspective. I can't see a reason not to allow some activity on the site. More activity, the more security. We'll look into that certainly.
Yeah, so I met them out on site. They have confirmed that they would like to use it, and they're providing risk assessments and things like that. And so I said I was at the meeting today, so I'd find out for sure. But I will speak to you outside of the meeting about it then, Nigel. Thank you.
Fine. I don't think it's a decision necessary to bring to committee either.
No.
I think as long as they're aware what's taken place, that's fine.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, thank you for your attendance. Okay, the final item is the Young Active Travel Trust grants. Paul Ruffle, thank you for your patience.
Morning, thank you, Chair. The brief outline for this report then is for the Young Active Travel Trust. There are 12 schools that have made applications in the autumn term between the 6th of September and the 3rd of December 2021, and also the spring term between the 10th of January and the 18th of March 2022. The applications meet the criteria for the trust fund, and they have all registered to Motive Stars and at least started their school travel plans. The aim of this funding is to promote safe and sustainable travel to school. I would ask the committee if I can now have authorisation to release this funding, which is held in trust already for these 12 schools, a total of £12,000, and that would leave a remaining balance of £48,836.35. These schools have been waiting for this funding now, in some cases up to 6 months, and they would like to start purchasing their bikes and scooters and the parking dollies outside school to make an impact, especially at this time of year when the weather's usually a lot nicer and they can make use of them. So I'll pass it over to see if there's any questions.
Any questions, anybody?
No questions from me, Chair.
Thank you. This will be a chair's action, because as you say, I think it does need to move along to enable the schools to use the funds. No comments, any other comments anybody wants to make on that? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, thank you very much, Paul. We'll get that organised.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll leave the meeting now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's to the end of the agenda. The dates for future meetings are for information. The next one being the 19th of September, and the authority to act for the chair and officers carries over from the last meeting, as this one's informal. And I thank everybody for their attendance.